Okay, here we go. Nathan Anderson, my man. What to say about Nathan? So, to understand Nathan Anderson, you have to understand his family. Um, it's kind of a funny story, one of my favorite stories to tell, actually, about meeting Nathan's family. So, after that deployment in 2004, 2005, I went on a tour kind of across the country, and I went to go visit the families of the guys who fell in the platoon. And when I went to Nathan Anderson's family, he lives in like rural Ohio. Okay, so I didn't have a cell phone at the time, so I was just looking at a map and I got lost. So I wound up going to see, um, just kind of like in town to kind of figure out where I was and get something to eat because it was getting around dinner time. I was hungry and whatnot. So I pull up to this like honky tonk kind of bistro bar situation. People who are from Nathan's town, you're gonna know which place this was. It was like I don't know, it's kind of like a very rustic looking, old time saloony kind of a place and whatnot. So, but as I pull up and I'm looking at the map in the parking lot, there's like a payphone that was right outside the door there. And this woman comes out from the bar and she's just cussing up a storm and just spitting just piss and vinegar. And I was just like, wow, that one's full of fire, you know. She gets on a payphone and she's cussing out the person on the phone and she's just all sorts of ranting and raving and whatnot. So I was just kind of sitting there looking and laughing to myself, like, wow, you know, that one's got a lot of fight in her, you know. So I get inside and I'm sitting down, I'm eating, and she sits down at the bar, kind of down from me, and somebody calls her by name, and I was like, wait a minute, that's Anderson's sister's name. Hold on just a second. So I asked her, I was like, do you know Nathan Anderson? And she's like, yeah, it's my brother. Who the fuck are you? I was like, I'm Sergeant Williams. And she's like, oh my God, you know, so she knew who I was and immediately flipped on a dime. And so she went from like battle hardened warrior to like the sweetest thing ever. And then she explained to me how to get to her parents' house and whatnot. So then I drove there and I got to meet his family in a very intimate and just really personal and amazing setting. And that just was a testament as to the people who raised him and the quality of family that he came from. And just at a time right now where everybody is so divided and things seem so desperate and doom and gloom and you know nobody really knows. There's a lot of fear right now as far as the fate of America. You know, I think back to families like the Anderson family and I'm like, guys, no, there's if there's people like that in America, we're going to be okay. You know, because of the virtues and the strength and the quality of people that a family like that raises. They raised somebody like Nathan Anderson. Okay, so now that you understand that context, let me explain to you my favorite story about Nathan Anderson. It was in the 2004 deployment, and I was a quick context here, okay? I was not well liked in my platoon very much, not by the senior guys. The junior guys, they all liked me. It was totally fine. But the senior guys, you know, first platoon was very like almost like a cult, right? Like they were the chosen few, and if you weren't one of the chosen few, then they didn't really like you because they're that tribal. And I was sort of an implant. I'd been in the company for a long time, but I wasn't in that platoon inside that company. And so when they took me and put me in that platoon as a sergeant, joining a platoon that already had a very well-rounded structure. You know, the squad leaders were all very strong. The team leaders were all very strong. And to be honest with you, Anderson would have been a squad leader if it weren't for the fact that they didn't have three outstanding squad leaders already. Okay, so Anderson was that quality of a person as a very young Marine. So him being the first team leader in his squad, he was primed, he was trained, he was ready to take over if that needed to happen because he was that strong of a guy. Okay, and the jump from team leader to squad leader, for those who aren't aware of that, is a massive jump. The amount of responsibility and the things that you have to be capable of to be a squad leader in an infantry company, let alone in Bravo Company 1-8 at that time. I mean, you really had to be physically perfect. Your knowledge had to be outstanding. You really had to be very competent at what you did. And you had to have that inner strength and confidence that you could lead men in combat under the most dire circumstances. Okay, Anderson was that quality of a person. He's one of a very few people I've ever met that have that kind of quality, that combination of qualities. Okay, so here we are. You know, I'm doing the Sergeant Williams thing where I'm like nitpicking every detail, and the platoon had started to get kind of like kind of complacent about things. So I had decided to take it upon myself as a sergeant in that platoon, even though I wasn't very well liked, to really start like grinding on the team leaders. So I would do things purposefully where I would do like I would just like take over the team, right? I would do the team leader's job for them, and I was just like getting knee deep in their Cheerios, which is very disrespectful to the team leaders. But I wanted it to be disrespectful for the team leaders because they were being complacent. So one day he's like trying to be respectful, but he's just angry. You know, he's just like, Sergeant Williams, could I talk to you for a minute? And I'm like, yeah, sure. What you got there, hardcore? Like, can we talk like to the side? And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. And I could tell he didn't really know how to approach it, but he was trying his best to be respectful, right? Which I appreciated. So he's like, that's my fire team, okay? You can't be like telling my fire team what to do. That's my job. I was like, oh, is it your job? So then maybe you should do your job, you know? So like their hygiene, you know, because I'm the one telling them to shave and make sure their hair's cut. So that's your job. So you should do your job then, right? And he was kind of like, yeah, that's my job. And I'm like, well, if you're gonna do your job, then you should do your job. And when I said that, I saw this little light bulb kind of kick on in his head, and he did not want to admit that I was right because he didn't like me very much, but at the same time, he knew I was right. And he had the amount of respect for me and for my rank to be like, okay, I know he's right. So he took that slice of humble pie and he started to conduct himself differently. And from him doing that, I don't know if that was the whole platoon taking his lead or whatnot, but I know he was the first one in that scenario that really started to do his job, like really internalize his job and do it correctly. And then slowly but surely, the whole platoon changed. So to me, the way I've always kind of looked at that, you know, and the people watching this might feel differently. I don't know. I mean, I can only tell you from my perspective, okay? But what I watched happen was from Nathan Anderson changing his heart and his mind and really starting to embody the virtues that are necessary in this kind of a scenario, which would take me forever to try to explain. There's so many things that have to happen in order for you to really be in that environment and be successful in that environment. But he really started to embody those things. And then little bit by little bit, I watched the whole platoon shift. So if you can imagine the character and the strength of an individual that's capable of doing that with a bunch of little baby alpha male warriors, that's who Nathan Anderson was. So again, Nathan, dude, if you're looking down, man, I love you to death. I hope you understand. I think you understood what I was getting at least in hindsight. But at the time, in that moment when you were all fired up and ready to fight and just like, you still had the strength of character and the humility to take my instruction and take my lead. I'll always be grateful for you for that because the whole platoon changed because of you, in my opinion. So much love to you, brother. I miss you, and I'm so glad I've got some stories to share about you, man. All right.